I play violin. I have a cat and his name is Moo Cow. I live in Melbourne now, but yeah, I'm from Tassie and I play improvised music. Playing violin when I was 6 because my dad basically sat down me and my twin brother Callum and said, "You got to choose an instrument," when we turned 6. Basically, we had always kind of watched a lot of string music, like even as a kid. I kind of think he was like working me up to choose the violin because we used to listen to a lot of like folk music in the car and stuff and go to the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra all the time, where obviously there were violins. So I think I was just automatically attracted to it because it was like the only real lead line instrument that I'd gotten super acquainted with, I guess. Yeah, I used to be in a folk ensemble and they basically encourage you to take like little improvised solos over bits of the tunes. And yeah, and I started playing jazz when I was in year 8. Originally on the drums because I didn't know that like doing it on the violin was actually something you could do yet. So that's really the thing that has always appealed to me the most, is the idea of just making up music on the spot. I mean, I guess you could say making it up on the spot, but it's really more like an amalgamation of the things that you've learnt. I guess it's always been like one of my favourite things to do musically and kind of the thing that I've ended up doing because it brings me the most fulfilment. And also for some reason it comes more naturally. I think a lot about nature in particular. I think it's just something that's always kind of been a part of my life because we grew up on the Huon River in La Truida. I guess it kind of connects you to something that's a bit bigger than yourself in a way. Yeah, and I've always felt like the ocean and the river and just bodies of water and like big vast expanses of nature. I feel like that kind of thing is what I think about a lot. Yeah, stuff that's happened in my life always just kind of takes me memory-wise in places that I guess I don't think about that much when I'm not playing. It kind of takes me to emotional places that I would not have kind of landed naturally in otherwise. So I started writing the album pretty much like 5 years ago, in that I wrote the first tune that I ever wrote and played with anyone like 5 years ago, and it ended up on the album as the first track. So yeah, I've written a lot of the tunes over a very long period of time, and I only really started thinking about it as an album 2 years into it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be an album. I decided it was going to have like a clear, definitive kind of distinction between like the folk stuff and the jazz stuff, like as in it'll be kind of like one kind of writing and then another kind of writing. It being basically a kind of journey, reflection of the journey that got me to Nam in the first place. And then I started thinking about it as particularly Omens in the Sky, probably the second song in. So the first one I just kind of wrote as like the first time I ever had kind of really sat down to do composition stuff. Probably the second song in that I wrote, which I think was Night Pay Window, I started very much explicitly associating all of the songs with the sky. I basically wrote about the night pay window at a 7-Eleven near my house. I was living with my friend Jarla in a tiny little cottage place in Carlton after we just moved out of student accom, and I used to just always walk down to the 7-Eleven and get like chocolate at like 2 AM when I couldn't sleep because I was just like thinking about shit. Because I think that was the year that I was like really kind of remembering a lot of stuff and coming to terms with a lot of stuff, as well as experiencing shit that I hadn't before and being alone more than I had before. So there was like just a lot of like reflecting and remembering and getting angry and just not being able to like focus on anything or sleep properly and just kind of spend like days and days processing shit. Just feeling like generally not in control and like at the behest of my own life. Yeah, and the night pay window was like just a constant thing, and it was always like funny to me that there was a night pay window. I guess I struggle so much with change in general, so when the sky is always kind of like a continual reminder that like it's just going to keep happening, like life goes on, do you know what I mean? It's like the one constant thing that you can always kind of look at and will always be there in some capacity, and it changes from day to day but like remains the same, and I take a lot of comfort in that. I guess there's a saying my auntie says, where she goes, no matter what, the whales keep swimming, which is like, basically she's like, whatever happens in the world, like, just think of the whales swimming. I guess that was the whole feeling that the album I tried to get to when I was writing it. And yeah, I guess it just started out of I felt like I needed to document emotionally and musically, and so I started doing it, and definitely didn't have an idea of how it was eventually going to sound until quite late into it, but always had the same kind of emotional motivations. Well, it was literally the way it happened was I just applied for a grant to do it, and the point where I was I definitely just want to write it was just before I'd applied for the grant. Basically played with a certain series of musicians a certain amount of times and played those songs with them, and it had just fitted in a way that I couldn't explain, basically. Just everything felt really organic and natural, and I guess the interaction between people was there and the musical connection was there in a way that I hadn't, I guess because I grew up with a lot of my mates being in a particular group of musicians and being really tight with certain musicians and playing in these tight-knit groups, and I would kind of join them as well and do those, have a really tight-knit musical group of basically the same people, because there wasn't that many people who did the kind of music that we wanted to do in Tasmania growing up. And as soon as I moved to Melbourne, it's oh my God, there's so many people, and they all have such a different musical take on things, and basically just feeling oh, I wonder if any of these people would ever actually want to play my music that I have, I guess I had so poorly visioned up at that time, hadn't written very good charts, and yeah, hadn't really done any gigs that I'd done as many rehearsals for as I would have liked to. I met Caleb, Alex, Jack, and actually played with them, and I was this is going to be it. Yeah, I just was yeah, this has to happen, and these are the people I'm going to have to record it with. Ignite, a University of Melbourne Ignite Labs grant enabled this project. I just realised I have to say that. Number one muse at the moment is definitely my little baby cat, and his name is Moo Cow. And then probably also my partner, his name is Connor, he's awesome. And just, yeah, generally nature, little animals, I love them. I guess the feeling of belonging and adventure and excitement that I feel when I'm with a group of people that I really trust. I think kind of the feeling when me and my housemate Em talk about building our commune in Tasmania and getting all the homies to come and do labouring on our farm, and then I can run my improvisation studios out of the studio and stuff. The kind of feeling I get when I think about that kind of stuff is, I guess, a motivating thing or a muse. Yeah, I guess my biggest thing is I just want people to enjoy listening to it and feel emotions that they otherwise don't feel while listening to it, in the same way that I feel like I get to have that experience with music, and I want other people to. My first album, Sky OMENS, is on all the streaming services everywhere that you can listen to music, on YouTube and stuff. Yeah, and you should listen to it on Bandcamp especially.